I'll do as directed. I will be able to handle it in the proper manner. And Mr. Speaker, for purposes of this
first withdraw, the demand that...
yes, I withdraw the demand.
Thank you.
Until guided by a resolution of the House. Madam Speaker, allow me to use this opportunity. There was a time when I was your age, Senator for Migori, and the nominated Senator Gloria, who keeps on screaming from the back there. There was a time we were your age. And we learned from the senior politicians in this House to be good legislators.
Senator Khalwale, please don't use unparliamentary language in respect of colleagues.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if I may go to my contribution. On the issue of raised by Senator Onyonka, Madam Speaker, about human organ trafficking, I want to call upon the chairman of the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board, Professor Stanley Khainga, who was my classmate from high school all the way through medical school. Professor Khainga, the eyes of the country are on you. You should have, accompanied by the PS Health, accompanied by CS Health, accompanied by CS Internal Security, all should have gone to Eldoret to go and close down this thing you're calling a hospital. How can it be, as I saw some so-called CEO of that hospital, I saw on TV, struggling to say that they are a world-class center of doing kidney transplants. And as she said so, she spoke in broken English. A world-class center cannot employ people who are illiterate. They should not play around with the children of the poor. I want to see a child of a minister going to donate, a child of a PS going to donate a kidney for somebody who is unknown to them. Mr. Speaker, in medical ethics, you donate organs within families. And before that donation is done, you do everything up to and including DNA. We cannot just allow people to be exploited. What a pity. 300,000 shillings in exchange of an organ that will turn your life completely, in exchange of conmanship by people who will get millions of shillings from that organ. It must stop. We must protect the poor. And if it's not,
Senator Khalwale, you can finalize in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I finalize by addressing the Minister of Health. He is not going to intimidate anybody. The Minister of Health is on record bragging that although he is not a doctor, he knows more than a doctor. Duale, please. Please, you are a small boy. I saw you found me in this parliament.
Senator Khalwale, please withdraw those words. Don't use unparliamentary language.
Okay, I withdraw the small boy part, but caution him again and again to stop playing with doctors. He should go and reflect what became of his classmates with whom they were in high school. How was he performing in class compared to his classmates who went to medical school? He owes them some degree of respect. Being appointed as a minister does not make you supernaturally clever. In fact, there are Kenyans who would be making this government performing better if they were the ones in those ministerial dockets.
Senator Mutinda.
Madam Speaker, I do rise to make comments on Senator Cherargei's statement in regards to the 10% tariff that has been imposed to the Kenyan exports by United States of America. Madam Speaker, we all agree very much that tea, coffee, the horticulture, textile, but especially tea and coffee are the highest economic horticultural products that we have in this country. And the increase of these tariffs, Madam Speaker, definitely then will impact negatively as far as the revenues for these two products are concerned. I hope and believe that the committee that has been assigned this particular discussion will be able to look into this so that we do not really water down the efforts of our farmers in the tea sector and the coffee sector. Madam Speaker, allow me to touch also on Senator Onyonka's statement in regards to the kidney transplants in this Medihill Hospital. Madam Speaker, Medihill, from where I sit, where I've passed by and seen how it looks very classy, it looks very nice, a good hospital, well maintained and all that. So of course, Madam Speaker, the expectation is that the standards and the administration services are up to as what you see, as what your eyes see. But Madam Speaker, what we've seen of late, the documentary that we saw, it's completely out of this world, Madam Speaker. You know, the other day of last year, I think last year, yes, when we had the issue of Shakahola, the discussion came of was it issues, a business of organ sale or operations in terms of these organs being removed from Kenyans and sold out there. A lot of discussions, went round. Now, with this issue that has been highlighted from such a hospital, it's very sad, Madam Speaker. And I want to request the relevant ministry, which is the Ministry of Health. It has a new ministry. I believe Duale will be able to perform, will be able to deliver. He's been assigned different ministries and we've seen him streamlining these ministries. Madam Speaker, at times you don't have to be a doctor to serve in this particular Ministry of Health. Leadership takes the lead. And we believe in his leadership that he's going to ensure such unscrupulous business people putting up hospitals for such kind of money-making businesses, this should stop, Madam Speaker. Lastly, is also on the issue of teachers that I'm told it's also the statement for Senator Onyonka in regards to the recent promotions that have been unfair. Madam Speaker, where you sit, you and me and everyone, we've come from the education system. I mean, we are here because we started, our teachers really.
30 seconds, Senator.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. So our teachers, for Christ's sake, Madam Speaker, they deserve good promotions. They deserve fair promotions, Madam Speaker. Everyone has passed through the education system. So it is fair. You can imagine today I sit here as a senator and the teacher who taught me in that lower level today, they've never even, for example, gotten their fair share of promotion. It's quite very much unfair. So it is fair that the CEO, TSC, and the relevant bodies concerned in terms of, in regards to these promotions, they offer it fairly to the teachers who go out of their way to ensure that learning is to the standard that is required. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The last speaker will be Senator Eddy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Cherargei has brought to this house a very important statement, Madam Speaker. And this statement, Madam Speaker, perhaps has skipped the lawmakers in Kenya. This statement, Madam Speaker, is to the Standing Committee of Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on a matter of national concern regarding the impact of the 10% tariff imposed on Kenyan exports by the United States of America, Madam Speaker. This tariff, Madam Speaker, is generally to affect the sectors of tea, coffee, horticulture, textile, and other sectors that are largely contributing to Kenyan exports, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I don't know why this is not a matter of substantive motion in this house. In fact, I wish Senator Cherargei the courage to bring this as a matter of national importance and a motion that this house must converse on. And Madam Speaker, if possible, go ahead and even make resolutions, Madam Speaker. Because this is one of those statements, Madam Speaker, that is critically indicting our policy, our foreign policy angle, Madam Speaker. Simply put, the United States has put tax on our commodities, Madam Speaker. Tax that is going to increasingly affect producers locally here, Madam Speaker, who, as we speak, Madam Speaker, experience a swath of violence, a swath of economic disruption, a swath of business disruption in the wake of the Gen Z movement last year, Madam Speaker, that was agitated by the issue of high taxation in Kenya, Madam Speaker. The tax levels that our people here are facing, Madam Speaker, is already so high that if you have tariffs being imposed on these particular areas, Madam Speaker, and unfortunately so, they come in the helm of the backdrop of this economy, which is agricultural products, Madam Speaker. If you look at the issue of tea, a key agricultural product, Madam Speaker. If you look at the issue of coffee, a key agricultural product, Madam Speaker. If you look at the issue of horticulture, a key agricultural product, Madam Speaker. If you look at the issue of textile, which we're even trying to struggle to even renew and regenerate our granaries, Madam Speaker, it is not possible to continue normal production in this country, Madam Speaker, where this issue is potentially going to lead to serious high cost of production. And Madam Speaker, we know, time without number, that where this kind of tariffs have been put on goods such as this, Madam Speaker, it directly only leads to the producers of these particular commodities pushing that cost to consumers, Madam Speaker. What does that mean? It means that Kenyans who are already extremely taxed will now also face serious consumer prices rising to them on the basic goods and services that they provide to these companies, Madam Speaker. So my urge, Madam Speaker, is that the moment the United States chose to impose 10% taxation on these commodities, Madam Speaker, it should have, and we have an opportunity, Madam Speaker, actually in both houses, it should be a matter of substantive motion that we must discuss, and it must inform also our foreign policy on how we want to engage with the United States, Madam Speaker. Do you want to review our lack of tariffs thereof in a number of commodities in the United States, Madam Speaker, so that we respond with the same, or do you want to negotiate it on the backdrop of a sober foreign policy, Madam Speaker? So while I support this statement and is going to go to the relevant committee, I want to urge this House to pay attention to it, that further from that committee, this statement should be brought back as a substantive motion that we can canvass on it and come with a position of the Senate that can be sent to the President so that he can be able to see how he engages his counterpart in the United States. So therefore, thank you, Senator Cherargei, as I support this statement.
Honorable Senators, we will defer the orders 8 to 13, and we'll move on to the next order, please. Clerk.
Order number 14, the Sports Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 33 of 2024, second reading, resumption of debate.
Senator Okech, you had a balance of 15 minutes to go on this bill.
Madam Speaker, yesterday I was interrupted by the issue of quorum by the good senator or aspiring senator from from Kwale, Madam Speaker, who was trying to catch probably his flight, being a Sky Team member. And Madam Speaker, I'm glad that today his flight is not being interfered with and is around, and he looks very excited to contribute more.
Senator, please focus on
On a lighter note, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, this is a very fantastic bill that has been pushed forward by the great Senator of Nairobi. And just to recap, that the Senator of Nairobi is working hard around the clock to make sure that we can be able to have our counties, from the money that they receive, just 1% of that money be dedicated to a sports fund within the counties, so that, Madam Speaker, those organizations within sports, organizations that are established to have been registered, whether individually or as a group, can then be able to benefit from what we will say some sort of funding by the county government in a predictable way that allows them to be organized and to participate in different platforms of sport, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, as I recap on this, yesterday I did intimate that indeed sporting has been left to grow like one of the seeds upon sowing that grows in among thorns, surviving on its own, Madam Speaker. Because if you cast your eye upon our sporting activities in this country, Madam Speaker, sport thrives in three ways, Madam Speaker. One is organically through community organized organizations that then support some form of sport here and there. And then the second way, Madam Speaker, is that sport thrives within our schooling systems, be it primary and secondary, and then to the university level. And Madam Speaker, you will notice that the higher level of education you go, the more the sports start dwindling. And that is because the investment in terms of both management, funding of it, infrastructural support of it, and even more broadly, professionalization of sport becomes a problem. So that means that there is nothing as devolved by the DNA of our own country in terms of our own organization as sports. But the problem that has been, Madam Speaker, is that we have not seen the commercial viability, the business case for sports in our country, to the extent that we have left this local organization of sports to just take an organic format. And this is one of those ways to make sure that you can be able to enable sports to thrive as a case that is an economically viable mode of belonging in our country, Madam Speaker, that in some ways can even try and uptake a swath of young people who do not have economic opportunity in this country, Madam Speaker. What do I mean by this, Madam Speaker? If you are to have a bird's eye view position on the issue of sports in our country, Madam Speaker, you'll realize that actually the most popular sports are the ones that get a bit of attention. Not enough attention to make them thrive, but just a bit of attention. For instance, Madam Speaker, athletics in this country. I say it gets a bit of attention because there is no proper investment in the infrastructure that is needed to support grassroots organization of athletes to the extent that they can grow to national level. Then you come to the second one that becomes soccer, that everybody in this country will agree, Madam Speaker, that if you cast your eye upon what brings us together, even among communities, of course, the thumbs up to Gor Mahia, thumbs up to FC Leopard, thumbs up to Police FC, thumbs up to Badara United, and all the teams that form our Premier League, Madam Speaker. But if you cast your eye upon these teams, Madam Speaker, you realize that that is where there is some form of semblance to organization in the sports investment, Madam Speaker, in this country. But if you look at other sports, Madam Speaker, that even can involve other gender, especially the women gender who are sometimes excluded from some of these physically hard sports like soccer, there is no attention to this, Madam Speaker. So allowing this fund to take root in our grassroots communities, Madam Speaker, is the beginning of organizing sports. It is the beginning of investing in sports management. It's the beginning of actually ensuring that we got a paradigm shift in the way we invest in sport. Because currently, Madam Speaker, when young people in Narok County want to go and play soccer during their camps when they're in holidays, all they need to do, and the only way they see they can be able to actually go and have their sports time and be able to enjoy the game while also building their professional capacities, is to call Senator Ledamo Lekina and tell Senator Ledamo Lekina that we are going for a sports activity. Our budget is 100,000. Please help us out. And then if they are in Nandi, it's even worse. Because in Nandi, what the characters I've seen is that I have sat with Senator Cherargei. They call them, the Senator Cherargei, to pay for referees who are going to referee these matches. It's even worse in Nairobi, where we should even have better sporting academies, because my sister, Senator Mutinda, who is a nominated member, sometimes when her pockets run dry, she just out to me and tells me that there are young girls who want to go and play netball, but they cannot be able to access some field where they can go and play this netball. So that I have to dig in my pocket and be a charitable donor to my wonderful senator to support her, to make sure that people can access even just field for sport, Madam Speaker. So it is important that we invest in this sporting activity, so that Senator Mutinda does not need to suffer to take money from her pocket to go and pay for a field for the young ladies in Nairobi who relate with us so well, or in Kayole, or in Dandora, can suffer, Madam Speaker. In some extent, Madam Speaker, even in Migori County, it goes worse. Young people have organized themselves so well, from Rongo, from Nyatike, from Kuria. They have their tournament in the farthest end of the county, and then they want to call Eddie Okech, their senator, that Senator Eddie, can you even help us just get water and some bread to go and survive on, Madam Speaker? Yet, if you go to our counties today, Madam Speaker, you'll find a governor going with a convoy of 10 vehicles to go and launch a project of 200,000, Madam Speaker. This is a very important bill, Madam Speaker, that will ensure that our organization at the grassroots level makes sure that community programs, clubs, locally organized organizations, and even to some extent, volunteer networks that are organizing our clubbing activities in the grassroots can be able to have at least a jump start to make sure that when they're thinking about their sporting activities, they can be able to go far. Madam Speaker, the only thing that I didn't see here is that Senator Sifuna, in his wisdom, did indicate here that the key sporting activities that you would want to see hugely invested on in these grassroots communities include football, swimming, basketball, netball, and volleyball. I wanted to invite Senator Sifuna in the amendment opportunity that we might have in the different committees that we'll have in this House, Madam Speaker, to think diversification and also to think pride. That let us first of all invest in areas that have brought us serious pride, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, one of the reasons why when I go to the United States or when I go to Europe, I get to be proud to be Kenyan is because of the first feat of a lady called Faith Kipyegon. And Madam Speaker, currently I'm mentoring a young girl from Migori County who has for the first time made it to the Olympic, running the 800-meter category, called Lillian Odira. Madam Speaker, you might remember that Lillian Odira, last year in the qualification tests for runners in this country, she actually did defeat Mora, who has been a champion at all over the world stage, Madam Speaker. So we cannot exclude athletics from this funding at the grassroots level. We must give athletics the opportunity, just like we will give football, just like we'll give swimming, just like we'll give basketball, just like we'll give netball, and just like you'll give volleyball, Madam Speaker. But even more adventurous, Madam Speaker, if you are an enthusiast of sporting activities and you are keen to watch things like the Olympic, Madam Speaker, you realize that in the Olympics, Madam Speaker, there are a lot of sporting activities that some of them, you wonder that, why wouldn't my son or my daughter in Kenya, if I am a Kenyan, cannot participate in them, Madam Speaker? For instance, Madam Speaker, we have seen in America a number of young kids going for gymnastics as a major sport that brings glory and honor to the United States. And they compete with their counterparts from Russia, from China, from Japan. Madam Speaker, these are sports that if you are to put people from Tarakaniti, where my friend Senator Gataya Mofaya comes from, you will have very good gymnastics, Madam Speaker, who can compete at the global stage. But we don't give them priority because we don't see them as sports, Madam Speaker. If you think about sports like synchronized swimming, Madam Speaker. If you come from the lake where I come from, or from where Senator Faki comes from, in the Indian Ocean, Madam Speaker. In the Indian Ocean, when you go there, Madam Speaker, you realize that even Chimera, Senator Chimera, the kind of swimming that this gentleman does in snow, they call it snorkeling. They do a lot of snorkeling, Madam Speaker, and they go and swim with the dolphins right in Wasini Island. And this is an opportunity where they can be able to get, when you think about sporting in a broad capacity, that we see a lot of those diversified sporting opportunities in Olympics, that I think that people in Kenya have got more than talent enough to go and participate at a global level. So I want to evoke the spirit of Ajua in Migori County, that Ajua can be a sport, Madam Speaker. This is what we call Mankala sport. It can be a sport that we showcase not just locally in Migori County, but all the way nationally, Madam Speaker. All the sporting activities that we are seeing being done at the Olympic levels, Madam Speaker, let encourage our counties that when this fund being supported by Senator Sifuna comes to law, we must see investment in those areas, Madam Speaker. Lastly, Madam Speaker, because I want to give time to my colleagues who also contribute in this wonderful bill, is that there is a conversation, Madam Speaker, that I have seen the right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga bringing around devolution, Madam Speaker. And one thing that I've learned, Madam Speaker, is that there are two concurrent bills that have come to this house. The bill for period poverty and the bill for sports now. And you realize that where these things happen to the maximum is in primary schools, more fundamentally, and high school to some extent, Madam Speaker. Isn't it the right time, Madam Speaker, for us to start thinking about devolving primary education, devolving secondary education, and to some extent, devolving the entire education so that counties can be given the power to deal with the immediate manifestation of the problems that are related with upbringing of our children at the schooling level. Because when you leave them largely for the national government, they collapse. Sporting is collapsing when the best place to build sporting capacities, Madam Speaker, is in high school and in primary schools, Madam Speaker, where age hasn't caught up with the number of people that they can be able to nurture these sports. So there's going to be a contradiction, Madam Speaker, where you have put a fund to support sports in counties, yet some of the hubs that they must be able to put that financing is in primary school and is in high school, which is not devolved, Madam Speaker. So I wanted to encourage that this conversation about sports and the bill that was brought by my sister, Senator Ruoba, I should invoke in us the spirit of wishing for more devolved functions that are relevant to the upbringing and to the best well-being of our people, like education. With that, Madam Speaker, I appreciate Senator Sifuna, and I support this bill in totality with amendments in the areas that I have tried to cast some thoughts on. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Ledama.